So, as you can see here, the enemy team has started complaining about how my missiles seem really overpowered. And that's how you know it works. Hello! I am Aoyalaipe, and I like to hop into top tier matches in War Thunder and then personally kill the entire enemy team by myself. Welcome to my channel. So, this here is a Gripen. It's a legendary dogfighter, incredible agility, perfect flight model, tons of countermeasures. In fact, the flight model is so good that you can fly this thing without wings. Oh man, those guys thought shooting off my wings would stop me. That's funny, they were funny. And yeah, that stuff's all nice to have. That's not what this video is about though. In addition to all that stuff, there's also a quirk that makes the Gripen, and a few other planes, but particularly the Gripen, freakishly overpowered. And because it's a quirk of math, not a quirk of the game's code, it applies to every game mode. It doesn't matter if it's arcade, realistic, or sim. So I'm going to quickly explain how this works in theory, and then I'm going to hop into a random public lobby where I'll hunt down and kill literally every single last enemy player by myself without dying, so I can show you how this works in practice. Now, the quirk has to do with the missiles the Gripen carries, the AIM-9Ms. And the key detail to understand here is that the AIM-9M is basically the slowest missile in the game that can hit an alert player in the face. Virtually every other infrared missile is easily flared in the front aspect, and virtually all of the radar missiles are just faster, way faster. All else equal, a faster missile is a better missile, but only on paper. In practice, however, most players suck at hitting fast planes with slow missiles. That's just a skill they struggle with, and this game is balanced around the skill issues of the average player. So what Gripen has essentially done here with the AIM-9M is they've undertiered planes that carry it based on an issue that is easy to work around if you know how, it's just most players don't know how to do it. So that's a recipe to break the game. And because I'm talking to War Thunder players, I'm going to explain this in an unnecessarily obnoxious way because that's how you people pay attention. Most players already have a basic understanding of this graph and how it works, but there's a key detail most people tend to miss here. But let's start with the basics just so we're all on the same page. If I shoot a missile into your face, the closing speed is my missile speed plus your plane speed. If I shoot a missile into your tail, the closing speed is my missile speed minus your plane speed. The same missile is going through the air at the same speed, but under the scenario on the bottom, the one labeled Malaysia, the closing speed and by extension the practical range will increase because the target, the plane I'm shooting at, is flying towards the missile instead of away from it. In other words, you don't want to have to chase your target down like this.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
It's much better for your target and your missile to come together kind of like this. Look, there are ways to get War Thunder players to sit through a math lesson. So even if all of that hadn't been explicitly spelled out to you before, there's a good chance that you at least kind of already intuitively understood the basic idea there to some extent. The detail most players miss is that this doesn't scale linearly. If you go from a fast missile to a slightly faster missile, there isn't much of a difference. If you go from a slow missile to a slightly slower missile, there is a very big difference. In other words, the faster your missile's going, the less this stuff matters. And the slower your missile's going, the more it matters. Most missiles that can hit alert players in the face are fast enough that this effect is noticeable, but it's not massive. You can get by without paying too much attention to it. However, the AIM-9M is slow enough that it goes from being a nice to have to something that is absolutely critical. Okay, but how much of a difference does it make? Well, if you're firing in a perfect head-on, with your target flying as fast as you will normally encounter a plane flying at this battle rating, then that will, roughly speaking, double your closing speed and range compared to a rear aspect shot. Sort of ballpark numbers, there's a few moving pieces there, but ballpark. Now, if you're instead making a shot from the side, like say they're 2, 3, or 4 o'clock, you only get a partial benefit or a partial drawback, so it's a bit more complicated. The exact amount varies depending on the angle you're firing from. Is it the front? Is it the sides? It's somewhere in between. It also varies on the speed of your target. The faster your target's going, the more their speed matters. Now, that might sound complicated, but you don't have to do it in your head. For the most part, all of those details just kind of sum up to be the relative velocity of the enemy plane. Not exactly, but it's close enough that if you gloss over the differences, it won't really matter. And that number is displayed right here when you lock your radar into someone. The game calculates it for you. The higher this number is, the easier your shot will be. So even though the AIM-9M is an infrared missile, the radar tells you how easy the shot is. So if you need training wheels while you get the hang of things, that's what you do. However, once you've done it for a few matches, you get pretty good at just eyeballing it most of the time though. So okay, you get the basic idea here. The theory seems solid, but how do you actually use this in an actual game? Well, let me show you exactly how to do that by hopping into a random public lobby and then using this trick to hunt down and kill literally every single last enemy player. Now, I know the Night Fighter vibe might look pretty cool, but it's still going to be hard to see a dark plane on a dark map, and that will get old after a few minutes. So in a few seconds, I'll add a slight filter so it's easier to see. And now the first thing I do is I check this message I got. It turns out it's from a random fan I saw me in the last match. Believe it or not, I've only ever made one Gripen video before, but somehow I always get recognized when I'm flying a Gripen. Alright, so the first kill is this Su-33. This is an ideal situation. He's flying in a straight line as fast as he can go. Shooting him in the face instead of the tail will, roughly speaking, double my AIM-9M's practical speed and range. I've supercharged my AIM-9Ms. So I fire as soon as I get a lock on him. This Nets here is a bit more complex. I take him down with a side aspect shot. This would normally be a bad range at this angle. Specifically, the range would be too close, but this Nets is going unusually slow. And remember, all this angle and clock position stuff matters less if your target is going slow. If he was going at a more typical speed, I would not have taken that shot. I would have maneuvered to a better angle and then taken a shot. And that's also what happens to the F-18 I kill in a second. You know, the guy was slow, so he's a free kill. Slow players don't last long in TTAA. If someone's plane is slow and you have AIM-9Ms, they will die almost no matter what. There just usually isn't a lot of math you need to do. You need to think about how you hit fast planes with slow missiles. You don't really need to think about how you hit slow planes with slow missiles. I missed at that F-16 because I misjudged his speed, but this F-4 Phantom and Kafir are flying right at me at high speed, so I just blow them up. If someone's flying right towards you and you have AIM-9Ms and they're 2 to 4 kilometers away, they're free kills. That's also a very simple calculation. Now, the main weakness of the AIM-9M is that it struggles at very close range, like under 1.5 kilometers in a head-on. Part of the issue is that it doesn't turn well at that range because it hasn't built up enough speed to be maneuverable, but the much bigger issue is that it takes a while for the AIM-9M to arm its proximity fuse. So you actually need a direct hit to kill someone if they're at very close range, but that's unlikely to happen if the missile can't turn well enough to actually get a direct hit. However, once the proximity fuse arms, a near miss will almost always kill someone. So now I'm looking for more targets, and I'm specifically looking for people who are flying right towards me. And I see this Vitor, and that's a bomber. Now, if I fire an AIM-9M at a plane that can't turn quickly, like bombers, Harriers, F-14s, MiG-23s, and especially F-4 Phantoms, they will not be able to outturn a head-on AIM-9M even at long range. They die. And most players don't realize that the no escape range for an AIM-9M can be up to 6 or 7 kilometers sometimes, but only in a head-on. That's pretty far away, and most people are just not prepared for it. Now, more nimble planes like F-15s can outturn an AIM-9M at that range, but I'm still going to take a long-range shot at this F-15 A-Wings because I don't think he's looking at me, and I think I can surprise him with a missile. And these other guys I killed are just generic missile-to-the-face kills at perfect AIM-9M ranges. So there's nothing they really could have done there except think ahead and not be in that situation. So as you can see, AIM-9Ms get completely busted if the guy using them knows how to work an angle and then runs around shooting everyone in the face. And because this is TTAA, people can respawn, and one of those guys I just killed has respawned and he's trying to revenge kill me. But I have a head start and I'm flying directly away from his missile. So there's no way in hell he's going to be able to kill me before I dip behind a mountain, and altogether now, missiles do not go through mountains. That is my channel motto. So if you're flying a plane with AIM-9Ms, your highest priority targets are anyone else who has AIM-9Ms or Fox 3s, because they can shoot you in the face right back. Fox 1 Raider missiles are actually not that hard to deal with, but I'll come back to those in a minute because this guy right here was the guy who was trying to revenge kill me, and as you can see, he knows how to hide behind a mountain as well, and that's a very good move. That's exactly what you do. I actually didn't get him here, so I just outran his turn and flew away. And I then trade shots with this F-15, but he was in cover for just a bit too long, so both of our AIM-9Ms were close enough that we could both outturn each other's AIM-9M. Then I see this Vigan flying right towards me while he's out in the open, so he dies, just a generic missile to the face kill. Then I get behind this Harrier and make what I think is my only rear aspect missile kill of this game. Like, I'm almost exclusively shooting people in the face because my missiles just work so much better if I shoot people in the face. But anyways, as you can see, I've killed enough people now that at this point, some of the enemy players are starting to figure out they need to be stopped, and they are starting to play a lot smarter. And one of them has started to complain in the chat about how my missiles seem unfair. Now, if you're fighting a competent player who has AIM-9Ms, most of the time, your best options will be get close enough that you can outturn the AIM-9M, get far enough away that you're out of range of the AIM-9M, or find cover, because AIM-9Ms don't go through mountains. If none of that works and you really need that guy to die, what you do is you get the fastest plane you can, you then go as fast as you can, and you charge right at him in a head-on, at the lowest possible altitude while aggressively pre-flaring. If you do that, it will actually be really difficult for that guy to get an AIM-9M shot off at you in the no escape window. And then you could force a close range head-on that you're prepared for and he isn't, so you will probably win. And yes, I am shooting down an F-15C here. I'm actually massacring an up tier right now, not a down tier. I'm doing this to a frickin' up tier. AIM-9M to the face is just so broken. This was actually a key part of that world record I broke with the F4 Ice. That thing can't survive at close range, so here's how I juiced enough range on my missiles to thread the needle. Go rewatch the video. Almost every kill I make with the AIM-9L/I, which is essentially an AIM-9M, is a front aspect shot. Look, these missiles are hard to dodge, so they're balanced around speed and range. The stuff I'm doing here looks unbalanced because I found a way to double the speed and range. Now, a lot of longtime viewers might think instead, wait, hold on, why didn't you do this like a year and a half ago when you were torturing VPO and Good with those AIM-9M terrain ambushes? And to some extent, I did. But you have to remember, they also had AIM-9M, so they could just shoot back if I relied on range, and it would be a draw. So at the time, just hiding behind a rock and then jumping out and surprising them was the right way to do it. If you're unfamiliar with the videos I made back then, here's the basic vibe. Welcome to Top Tier. The jungle speaks AIM-9M. However, most planes with AIM-9Ms later also got Fox 3s, and that meant their battle range shot way up. The OG Swedish Gripen I'm flying here did not get Fox 3s, so it doesn't see those planes anymore. And in fact, those planes for the most part weren't really replaced, so planes that have AIM-9Ms as their primary weapons are actually pretty rare these days. That means I can run around sniping people in the face with AIM-9Ms and not get sniped back. And actually one of those planes that had AIM-9Ms as its main weapon but then got Fox 3s is this Barak 2 that I'm killing right here. The first shot was like at the maximum possible range I would ever take a shot at this particular angle. So I then fired a second missile at him, and he can't really dodge the first missile without flying into the path of the second missile, and that's how I got him. And then I killed this Draken with another rear aspect shot. I actually made 2 rear aspect kills this match, and that particular kill was about the furthest I would fire an AIM-9M from a target in the rear aspect and be pretty confident it'll actually hit them. It's surprisingly easy to outrun an AIM-9M if it's fired at you from behind and you have a little bit of a head start. However, I did not have enough of a head start to outrun that AIM-9M that was just fired at me from behind, so I had to outturn it instead. That Barak 2 player just respawned in an F-15, he was the guy who shot the missile at me, and that essentially forced a close range turn fight. It's too close for missiles, so I just switched to guns and kill him that way. You know, for all of the cheesy sniping people in the face nonsense that I've been showing you with the Gripen, it is actually really good at dogfighting. So I know that guy is definitely going to come try to revenge kill me again, so I hit the deck, run directly away from his spawn while dumping absolutely everything just to get my reloads going. This is actually my first countermeasure reload of the match, believe it or not. That's how many countermeasures this thing has. And considering he is already trying to snipe me with Fox 1s, he's bearing straight down on me, this was the right call. He definitely wants me dead. Like, it's clear he popped a backup on his F-15 with the sole purpose of killing me. This does tend to happen when you kill someone and their entire team on repeat because they get kind of pissed with you. They want revenge pretty bad. So he is definitely focusing me. And thankfully for me, that actually makes it really easy to bait him into a trap. There are plenty of mounds around here and missiles do not go through mounds. So I'm just gonna lead him into these mountains and then use the terrain to make it impossible for him to actually fire a missile at me until he's too close for missiles. Then I'm just going to force another close range raid fight where my Gripen has an advantage, and then I can just go to guns and kill him, or at least that was my plan. In my first pass, I critically damaged his rudder, and he also lost all his speed in that brutal turn, so he's dead. There's nothing he can do. However, it's safer for me to circle around and take him down with a missile rather than go in and finish him off with guns, and actually take him down with a spread of 3 AIM-9Ms just to be absolutely extra super sure he's dead. The reason I did it this way is that it's still possible for one of his teammates to spawn in, book it across the map as fast as they can, and kill me. If I go in for a close range dogfight, even against a damaged enemy, it's possible I'll lose a lot of energy and not be able to get it back before one of his teammates bum rushes across the map and tries to revenge kill me as well. If I instead circled around for a missile shot, I would definitely have enough time to build up enough energy that this other hypothetical enemy wouldn't be able to kill me. As I mentioned earlier, if you kill everyone, then everyone tends to get angry with you, so you kind of got to plan ahead and make sure that none of them have any ways to kill you. that would not be particularly likely because I've already killed almost every single enemy player, but, you know, I don't take chances. Now, that guy who's been focusing for actually most of the match now has respawned, this time in Kafir C7, which is the really fast little Delta Wing, and he's making a run for his own airfield's AAA cover instead of going right for me, and that's definitely the smart move here. He's actually been using many of the tactics that I regularly harp on in my videos, so I would not be surprised if this guy was a fan of my channel. And he's actually using them pretty well. He's a solid player, but his problem is that I'm probably the guy who taught these counter moves to him in the first place, and that means I know the counter moves that he doesn't. So his plane is fast enough and far enough away that if he simply ran away from me in a straight line, he would be able to outrun my AIM-9M. I couldn't get him. But I was willing to bet that he didn't know that. So I fire a missile at him that scares him into turning when he shouldn't. And oh no, now I'm making a side aspect shot instead of a rear aspect shot, and that means my missiles perform drastically better, and now I have enough range to nail him over his own airfield. So yeah, that first missile wasn't to kill him, it was just to smoke him out. The second was to kill him, and the third was to make sure he was dead. And apparently he thought that was kinda gay. Now that guy has respawned yet again, and he still really wants me dead, so he charges right at me in another Kafir. And that would have been a good way to try to kill me, a fast plane that can get through the no escape zone quickly to force a head on. I explained that earlier in this match, but he's way too high, he's not up near the ground, so he has no cover. He's not pre-flaring, and he didn't circle around to build up a lot of speed before he came at me. So he's a sitting duck. Now, he could outturn an AIM-9M at the range I fired, especially with a plane that fast and nimble, and he did do a really good job dodging my first AIM-9M, but he could not outturn 3 AIM-9Ms because dodging one sets you up to kill by the other, so I just took him down with a spread of missiles. As I mentioned earlier, he's actually a pretty good player, so I'm not taking any chances. So anyways, that happened to be his last plane. So now the match has finally started to calm down a little bit, and I have a moment to come back and explain how to deal with Fox 1 radar missiles. I promised to do that way earlier in the video. So the weakness with Fox 1s is that the enemy player has to look straight at you to guide their missiles into you. However, your AIM-9Ms are fire and forget. So you can fire your AIM-9M at the enemy player and turn around and fly away from his radar missile, but he can't turn around and fly away from your AIM-9M without breaking the lock on his radar missile. So if he turns to avoid your missile, you live. However, if he presses through with the attack, even though his radar missile flies through the air faster than your AIM-9M, you're flying away from his radar missile, but he's flying towards your AIM-9M. That means your AIM-9M will almost always hit him first, and then he can't finish guiding the Fox 1 missile into you because he blew up. Also, another quick side note, I play this game in disguise. Gaijin offers a streamer mode, and I use it. The only thing I can't fake is my own player card, so if you ever want to know if someone is me, just check the player card and see if they have 10,000 kills in this obscure MiG-21 variant. If they do, that's almost certainly me, and if they don't, it's definitely not me. There's a random straggler here that spawned in. I take a relatively long-range shot at him, and then I take a short-range follow-up shot. He could not have dodged that second shot, the short-range one, but he could have dodged that first long-range shot. I took the first shot anyways though, just in case anyone else on my team had already shot a missile at him. You know, I wanted to make sure I killed him first. You know, my missiles outnumber the enemy players at this point, so taking multiple shots at every target is actually a good idea, because we're mostly competing for who gets kill credit at this point. Now, I need to thank this video's sponsors, who are, of course, the random fans who gave me money through YouTube Super Thanks. So thank you to 5 Tefim M10S, Ducky Andre, Knockoff Rack, and Ducky Andre again, among others. 5 Tefin, it's probably pronounced Steven or Stefan or something like that, whatever. Steven, your comment actually gave me a video idea, but not quite the one you were asking about. I've always avoided making a keybinds video because the issue is not that players don't know how to do keybinds, it's that they don't know how to do keybinds. But the fact that you asked me that question with 35 Canadian dollars slapped on it made me realize, hey, why don't I just make a video on how to know how to do keybinds? That would make more sense. So I'll do that at some point. I don't know when because I'm crazy busy at the moment, but it is in the works. Also, if you guys want to see more of me, I made a collab video with my friend Draconix DG on the Tornado GR4, and the conversation in that video is absolutely hilarious. That video is on his channel, and you can see it by clicking on the bottom left in just a second when this video ends. Trust me, it's worth watching. Anyways, that entire enemy team is dead, exactly as promised, and if you subscribe and ring the bell, you won't have to remember how to spell AOLIPay next time you want to watch one of my videos.